Hey, what's up guys? Alex here with a new video, and today we will be doing a quick sharpness comparison with the brand new Sony 28-70 f2 G Master and a whole lot of G Master primes. If you're new to the channel, I am a portrait photographer based out of Miami, Florida, and I primarily shoot with Sony and Leica. The lenses you see here in front of me, I own most of them. The 28-70 is actually on loan for the next 2 weeks, and I want to be doing a bunch of comparisons and tests just to see if this lens is worth the hefty $3,000 price tag. The first thing that came to mind was doing a sharpness comparison between all these lenses. All these lenses, I mean the 24 G Master, 35 G Master, 50 G Master, and 85 G Master. Like I mentioned, I actually own all these prime lenses. I consider myself a prime shooter and don't really like zoom lenses. But I can't deny, in today's age, zoom lenses have gotten really good. Actually, probably just as good as prime lenses. But there is a huge advantage here with prime lenses because we are comparing f1.4 primes with an f2 zoom. Why an advantage? Well, all these 1.4 primes will be stopped down to f2, which means we will not be shooting them wide open. Well, we will, I will also show you that. But when you think about stopping these down to f2, these lenses will technically have a sharpness advantage, and I want to see how well the 28-70 does. So for today's video, it's a very boring image samples. I got a tripod, I put up a camera on a tripod, and then I decided to shoot it with all lenses in 3 different apertures. Wide open, so 1.4 for all the primes, and f2 for the zoom lens, at f2 with all the primes, and then at f2.8. Now I wanted to see, is there a difference in sharpness? Is there a difference in rendering and bokeh? What does that look like? Well, let's go ahead and go into the computer, let's pixel peep the crap out of these photos, and see what we find. Let's kick things off, and for the duration of this comparison, we'll set the ground rules. The left-hand side will always be the 28-70, and then the right-hand side will be the prime lenses. We're starting off with the wide end, and we're starting off both at 2.0. So here we have the 28-70, here we have the 24 G Master, and even though this is not a direct comparison, I have to call it out. The difference between 24 and 28 sounds close from a numbers perspective, but it is not close at all. The 24 focal length captures so much more than the 28, and you can see it here in this image. But alternatively, because the 28mm is a tighter focal length, you have more background blur, and you can see the bokeh here in the background at f2, whereas in the 1.4 stop down does have a little bit less blur. Zooming in, you're going to see that both are really sharp, and this is actually huge for the zoom lens because this is wide open, which means the 24 1.4 stop down at 2.0 has an advantage, and the 28-70 is keeping up. And as a matter of fact, I think the background blur looks better on the 28-70. That is absolutely wild. Let's take a look at these lenses both at 2.8. Both at 2.8 here, and again, the 28-70 is actually winning in the background blur department. Again, that's probably because of the compression of the lens, so that makes sense. Zooming into the sharpness, they both look practically identical. This is insane how close they are and how good this 28-70 zoom lens is. Now for fun, let's take a look at both lenses wide open and see the difference. Here both lenses are wide open and you see the magic of the 1.4, and to have this kind of background blur and separation on a 24mm is just insane, and again, that's why I say the magic of the 1.4. Zooming in, both lenses are extremely sharp. They both produce an incredible image, and there really is no losing here. This is actually super close and super impressive. This is just the wide end. Let's take a look at the 35mm focal range. So here with 35mm focal range, again, I'm very impressed at the similarities. The background blur almost looks the same. The prime lens does have rounder bokeh balls, but outside of that, they both look very similar. Zooming in from a sharpness perspective, the G Master Prime is a hair sharper, but not by much. I mean, in YouTube, you probably won't be able to see the differences. I'll probably provide some of these for you to download so you can check out yourself, because on my screen, the prime lens is a hair sharper, but again, not by much. Let's take a look at both of these at 2.8. At 2.8, the images again look very similar. The background blur almost looks identical now. From a sharpness perspective, they both look very similar. I still think the prime is a hair sharper, but I mean, unless you're zooming in this close, you're not seeing the difference. And the background blur, I'm actually surprised how close it is. Now for funsies, let's take a look at both of them wide open. So here with both lenses wide open, you see the magic again of the 1.4 just blowing out that background into a complete buttery bokeh. The 2.0 is hanging in there though, so it's pretty impressive how close it is. Zooming in, they are both probably equally as sharp. And on the prime lens, you do see a hair of purple fringing where you don't see it on the zoom lens. So the performance we're getting here is absolutely insane out of this 28-70. Now let's take a look at the 50mm focal range. Here with the 50s, before we zoom in, I have to say I consider the 50G Master one of the sharpest lenses I've ever used. So I'm curious to see how it's going to hold up here with the 28-70. Already from just this view here, they both look identical at f2. Zooming in, I would say the prime is a little sharper. Again, you might not even see this on YouTube. Like you might need to download some samples here to play with because it is slightly sharper, if that. This is absolutely insane. I can't believe what I'm seeing right now. Very impressive on the 28-70. Let's take a look at both of these at 2.8. At 2.8, they both are looking very, very similar. Zooming in, I think sharpness here is, I mean, practically identical. I don't really see a difference. And yeah, this is crazy. Let's take a look at both of these wide open. So here wide open, the 50 completely obliterates the background. And as you get to the tighter focal ranges, you're going to have that because of the compression. So the difference between the 2.0 and 1.4 does get a little bit bigger as you get with the tighter focal ranges. And here you can see it, that 1.4 just obliterates the background and it looks so good. Zooming in, this is where I'm telling you the G Master 1.4 is impressive. Wide open, it is one of the sharpest lenses I've ever used. And here it's just insane to see how sharp the 50 1.4 is wide open at 1.4 and just the way it obliterates and renders the background. But the 2.0 is hanging in there. I can't deny that. It's hanging in there and that's pretty impressive. Let's round out this comparison with the 70 and 85. So here we're going to see the biggest differences because we're comparing two different focal ranges. Obviously the 28-70 maxes out at 70mm and the 85G Master is an 85mm lens, which means you're going to have more compression, which means the background will get exaggerated and look larger than it is. You'll have more bokeh. And again, you can see it here, the 85 just looks super creamy. From a sharpness perspective, here is where I think the 28-70 is maybe its weakest. And I don't mean that in a bad way because it's still a sharp lens, but the 85 prime just absolutely destroys the 28-70. Here, I don't think it's a comparison whatsoever. The G Master 85 is a sharper lens at f2. Let's take a look at them both at 2.8. At 2.8, that compression of the 85 is still just destroying the background. Beautiful rendering. I love this lens. 28-70 still looks great. Zooming in, the 28-70 does sharpen up at 2.8, but the 85G Master is a clear runaway winner here. So finally we have a runaway winner with one of these prime lenses and the 85G Master is taking the cake. Now let's take a look at both of these wide open. Both of these wide open, you see the magic of the 85G Master. You can't even see or tell what's in the background because it is gone. It is melted. You can barely even see the writing of the camera FM3A here because of how shallow the depth of field is. Zooming in, the G Master Prime is still sharper than the 28-70 zoom, and that is pretty impressive. And here it's awesome to see the difference in just how shallow the depth of field is with the 85 and how just the dials here are completely gone. They're blurred out where you can still make them out here with the 28-70. Anyways, what a fun comparison. Let's go ahead and wrap up our thoughts. So what did you guys think? Honestly, I was expecting the 28-70 to be good, but not this good. The reality is it's competing with prime lenses stopped down at f2. That is absolutely wild. So the fact that you can get even remotely close to a prime lens, a G Master lens at that, stopped down and have the versatility of an f2 zoom, I mean, that is super impressive. Now, if you're not familiar with my work or my channel, I used to be a wedding photographer. I actually did weddings from 2015 to 2021, so for 6 years. And throughout my entire career, I shot with primes. I always carried a very similar kit to what I have here in front of me because I love the rendering and the look. But that meant I was always changing lenses in between the wedding and always kind of dealing with just carrying this extra weight. I haven't even gotten to size, weight, or anything like that because this is just a quick sharpness test. But I think the reality is, if I was still doing weddings today, this 28-70 really is the do-it-all lens. You can really condense 4 primes into one, and that is crazy. So yeah, the lens is expensive at $3,000, but the value proposition you get here is pretty wild. And the fact that you have the versatility to not need to change your lenses throughout the day is also super impressive. So look, this is just a quick sharpness test. I have this lens for about 2 more weeks. I'll be doing a portrait session this weekend if the weather is good. It's been super rainy here in Miami, and I'll just be doing more tests with a 28-70. So if you're into it, please smash the subscribe button. It really helps the channel. Please like this video. And as always, guys, I will see you on the next one. Have a good one, guys. Peace.